this should not be happening. You need to understand. And then they would be like, okay, fine, it won't happen. And the next time it would come to you, the stock, and then again, there would be the same issue. Then
Okay.
something would come, another thing would arise up. So like, we had to explain to them multiple times, I would say, not once. And we still do. But we, I think, had very strict guidelines. Actually, I think when we were like obviously ordering lesser quantities,
Mm-hmm.
placing say one kurta, we're placing 5 quantities only, 10 quantities only, then the obviously power you have over trying to explain someone is much lesser than when you grow in your
Yeah,
quantities.
agreed. Agreed.
Then your voice is heard all of
Yeah.
a sudden, right? So when us like quantities increased, then our voice started getting heard. Then we had to explain to them, if this is not at par, like we will have to return it, and there's nothing else we can do. So like having those guidelines in place, but it didn't happen in one go. It took its fair share of time. It took almost a year, I think,
Okay.
more than a year for us to even impart that knowledge. Then what is it like email PO?
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to M Square Podcast. This is another exclusive episode that we're bringing for you, and this is your host, Anurag Manik. Today, we have with us whom we all know before Shark Tank happened, and now we know them much, much better. The story behind House of Chikankari and how it has transformed into the brand that it is today. So, today we have with us the founder, Akriti Rawal, and Ishani with us. So, welcome to the show, Akriti and Ishani.
Thank you.
Thank you. Akriti and Ashani, I wanted to ask you what was the concept behind House of Chicken Curry? How did it start? Because I know before Shark Tank, also my sisters and all, they have been using your brand. They have been, buying it from you. So how it started, and they were like, this. Okay, so when it popped up on TV screen, they were all like, oh, we have seen this before. We have, worn their clothes. We have used, we have, what you can say, once or twice we have ordered from them. So we know them. So how was it? What was the idea behind House of Chicken Curry? When did it start, and how was the whole journey until Shark Tank happened?
Yeah. So House of Chicken Curry started in October 2020, and I co-founded House of Chicken Curry with my mother, who currently heads the production in the company and the operations. So the journey started with a hand embroiderer who she knew from a long time, because she was also like always designing clothes for herself. She never took it up personally, professionally,
Okay.
but she was always designing clothes for herself. So the embroiderer called her up because in COVID he had lost his job. So he wanted some additional work. And he just shared, if she wants to get something made for herself, like personally, if she wants to get some embroidery done on her clothes. And that's how she had shared this thought with me. And I had left my job during that time in COVID, and I was like
Okay.
searching on something, to start of my own. I wanted to do a business. So during that time, I really got intrigued by the whole handmade industry, and I started researching on it a lot more. And while I was doing my research online on the internet, I read a couple of articles which said like a lot of artisans had lost their jobs in COVID, and how even before COVID the industry was anyway declining, but COVID had hit them more, and it was
Okay.
declining pre-COVID because of the lack of digital literacy amongst the artisans,
Okay.
and the fact that it's really difficult for them to understand how tech works, or a website works, or listing on marketplaces works. So the whole demand of for the handicrafts was declining, which was leading to a decline in the number of artisans also. And all this really made me read more and more about it. And while I was reading about it, I came across chicken curry as an art form. And I mean, there was no going back after I
Yeah.
looked at how beautiful it was. And I then my mom showed me chicken curry kurtas that she had, and the price points they were selling at, really got me thinking that, and the fact that there was no brand that was, solely coming out there. Like there was no
Okay.
brand that you would associate with chicken curry. Chicken curry was available with different players like Fab India, who would like stock up a few pieces of chicken
Okay.
curry, or offline stores, or you would think of Lucknow when you think of chicken curry,
Uh-uh.
but there was no a single brand that was out there who you would just think of when you think of chicken curry. So
Agreed.
that these were some of the things that led us to begin the journey. And October 2020 we founded it. For the first few months we were only on Instagram, and after a year, we launched our website. It's when Ishani joined our team, and we were then 3 people in management. She heads the
Okay.
marketing And she's, I mean, joined the company when we were at 20K, and currently we're 200K, so 10x growth. That goes to Shani.
Community.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, that's been the journey from my side. Shani can share some thoughts from her end also.
Yeah, so my journey now with House of Chikankari has been it's been almost 2 years. And
Okay.
like Akriti mentioned, so Akriti also comes from a marketing background, and we both
Okay.
usually like used to just keep thinking at that point of time that okay, we have to do this, we have to do that, we have these goals, these numbers to achieve. And now after Shark Tank, we've crossed those numbers, so it feels like it's a dream come true. I literally told her the other day that, I'm seeing all these PR articles, and when I joined the company, it used to be my dream that House of
Yeah.
Chikankari actually becomes so recognized that you Google it and you see all those news articles coming up. So those are the goals that for any marketing person, any marketing executive, that we've surpassed, owing a lot to Shark Tank.
Mm-hmm.
It feels great.
I think it would be so surreal, right? When you go and watch those articles, things which you were, planning for, working so hard for. And when that eventually comes true, it just feels like, if you put in the hard work, it will come true at some point in time.
So honestly, we've reached out to every, I think, publisher, every like magazine before Shark Tank to like, with our story. Please, like, just understand what we're trying to do. And like, no one has responded to us ever. So obviously, like, we've gone through a fair share, and even like we've tried hiring a PR agency also in between to get that,
Yeah.
story out. And the story for us was the story of the art form in itself,
Yeah. Agreed.
artisans, and like, because we were trying to get out, the story of the art form also, not just our company, right? So we've tried a lot. We've made a lot of different articles, formed it in different ways so that the story clicks with the publishers and
Yeah.
someone picks it up. But I mean, it had to happen through Shark Tank. And it's actually surreal that those people who never even like paid attention to us writing back to us that okay, like, would you like to do an interview? So yeah, I mean, it feels like hard work has paid off,
Paid off.
and that wait of 1-2 years of repeatedly emailing them has
Yes.
paid off.
Yeah, it's basically we always had that intention to get the story of the artisans out, to get the journey of everyone who's associated with the brand to be
Yeah.
known to the public, so that people know about it, people think about it, people take action on it. They don't buy from us to like. Of course, they support the brand, but with supporting the brand, they support a larger cause.
Yeah. Okay. So, like how do you, like manage these artisans? How do you, collaborate with them? What is the whole process? And, like if you can share any story of any artisan, who was really, who really were benefited out of, like, I'm, saying that all the artisans would have been benefited out of it. So if you can share one or two stories of some artisans, like for them, it was like life-changing moment for, being associated with them.
So currently, how we're working with artisans is we have our manufacturers who are working for us in Lucknow, who handle the
Okay.
production, and they take care of the artisans. So the number of artisans who are producing the amount of quantities we're taking every month is close to 5,000. Was close to
Wow.
5,000 during Shark Tank. Now it's already increased, and it's going to increase in the coming year also. So currently, our impact is more on increasing the demand for the craft in general. So they have continuous
Okay.
employment, even if in the winter months. Like, how we manage to support them and help the artisans is to getting the same amount of quantities by changing the fabrics, so that it's not just a sum oriented job. They have a
Yeah.
continuous employment throughout the year. So that's something that we've like tried to incorporate last winter season, by experimenting with newer, warmer fabrics, so that they're not like 2 months, 3 months, they're not like out of jobs. They also rely
Okay.
on us daily wages. So
Yeah.
that's something we've tried to do to create a continuous demand for the art form itself. And I mean, there are artisans who are working with us in our Delhi warehouse also, but not a lot, because they're in the quality check team with us. And
Okay.
with them, obviously, there is a direct impact that we see because they're with us in our warehouse and not in Lucknow. So with them, there is, I mean, a lot of them who were working with export houses. Now we have about a team of 20 in Delhi, but most majorly, obviously, the manufacturing happens in Lucknow. So the 20 artisans we have in Delhi, most of them used to do embroidery like 5 years back, and then like because they couldn't find any jobs, and then COVID hit, they started doing other, domestic help jobs and other things. So when like they
Okay.
got to know through their community that there is a brand that is hiring for this, uh, that is something that really motivated them, because it's a skill that they have,
Yeah.
it's a talent they have, and they
Talent.
feel that there is someone who needs
Valuing it.
them,
Yeah.
valuing it and needs them and wants them to grow. So these are some things that we personally experience with them, and in the long run, like all the artisans even in Lucknow that we are going to be attached with, our future aim is to have some sort of a grassroots level impact in Lucknow as well, wherein we hope to and dream to have a foundation,
Yeah.
and wherein we can have that deeper impact on their families. We can educate their children or provide them some sort of attachment to our brand as well,
Brand.
because
Yeah.
there is a bigger cause. We are obviously helping them with the demand, but at a deeper level, at the family level, at an education level,
Yeah.
like these are some plans we keep discussing, but I don't think they're too far. I mean, even like Shark Tank was just a plan we discussed. So I'm sure we will be able to have that impact eventually as we get into it, and as
Yeah.
we grow.
I think that is very important, right? To actually have an impact to the people who are working for you, who are giving, their heart and soul to it. Knowing a little bit about Lucknow, I know that there is a lot that depends on the textile industry, and like, a lot of families depend directly on the textile industry, and to have a brand that is actually caring for them right now is something which is wonderful to hear. At the same time, which is has not been heard of. This the people should have started doing this years ago, but it started very recently, like with brands like House of Chicken Curry, and that is so commendable, to be very honest. Uh, so, Akriti and Ishani, I wanted to ask, so when you start a brand like, House of Chicken Curry, where you want to support the artisans also, but it is a category in itself, right? You're focusing on one niche of the chicken curry, art type. So how difficult was it as a marketer, to market the brand, because you have to market the entire category as a whole? And how do you compete? As you mentioned, like, brands like Fab India will have a few options out of it, but to build a complete brand in, chicken curry art form, how difficult was it to market the entire art form itself? And how was the initial interactions with the customers? Like somebody would come and then they would ask you questions, what is this? How did you handle all those questions, and what were the most weird questions that you had to handle?
Okay, so before Akriti answers, call auntie also. No, it's fine. Like she has some meetings, so
Yeah.
so I'll just like initially when we started out the brand, honestly, uh, uh, I think we had a very big advantage that there was no brand out there in chicken curry.
Okay.
People love chicken curry. You would always hear people saying, like, especially the age group above 30, 40, I would say, like, was really fond of the art form itself. So the advantage for us was that, like, firstly, we had House of Chicken Curry in our name. So the brand became very descriptive and distinctive and very
Okay.
obvious at what it does, right? So that helped us gain a lot of traction. And then secondly, because there was no brand out there, it gave us a lot of advantage in gaining a lot of traction and be kind of having, I would not say one of the first movers to take it
Mm-hmm.
online in a in a proper D2C e-commerce way. So we had a lot of advantages on that front. I don't think marketing the niche in itself was something that we faced difficulty with, but uh, in fact, I think that was more of an advantage for us.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
disadvantage comes from the fact that no one had done it online. So the manufacturers or the artisans or the carigars who work with us, they don't understand the importance of quality in an e-commerce world.
Okay.
Supplying to a store or retail stores, it's very different, and any kind of quality the dag would do, because there is no brand. And also supplying to an e-commerce but place, but also in a brand,
Yeah.
it's very different, because then the brand becomes responsible for the quality assurance
All
to
the
the customer,
quotations. Yes.
and you can't build a brand without that quality assurance. So I think those were the biggest disadvantages. Like, that was the biggest disadvantage that we faced, that trying to explain to our supply side, the people who were involved in it, what the importance of a brand is and how do we want to build it, what is our aim, why are we thinking of building a brand, and how is it different to what you've been doing.
Agree.
But yeah, that took its fair share of time. We still struggle, but I think after Shark Tank, it will become easier for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
I think yeah. So I think that part that you mentioned, right? That actually educating the people who you are working with, how important the quality becomes after associating it with a brand. So how do you deal with it? Like it must have been, you have to break a barrier, like that is, in their minds, okay, ye to aise hi chalta hai, and this is how it goes. But you have to go, and they will be like, we are working here for years and years, and now you're coming and telling us. So how did you overcome that, inhibition in them?
It's really difficult. I wouldn't say it's easy because you would explain something to them, and then and also because we're physically in Delhi. So we
Yeah.
would only go like say once in a few months, like 2 months or 3 months, right? So we're always on the call and you're explaining that this challenge has come up and this should not be happening. You need to understand. And then they would be like, okay, fine, it won't happen. And the next time it would come to you, the stock, and then again, there would be the same issue. Then the
Okay.
next time something would come, another thing would arise up. So like we had to explain to them multiple times, I would say, not once, and we still do, but we, I think, had very strict guidelines. Actually, I think when we were like obviously ordering lesser quantities,
Mm-hmm.
placing like say one kurta, we're placing 5 quantities only, 10 quantities only, then the obviously power you have over trying to explain someone is much lesser than when you grow in your
Yeah,
quantities.
agreed.
Then your voice is heard all of a
Yeah.
sudden, right? So when us like quantities increased, then our voice started getting heard. Then we had to explain to them, if this is not like at par, like we will have to return it, and there's nothing else we can do. So like having those guidelines in place, but it didn't happen in one go. It took its fair share of time. It took almost a year, I think,
Okay.
more than a year for us to even impart that knowledge. Then what is an like email PO? How do you like read a PO? How you need to
Okay.
print a PO? WhatsApp, जिनके पास email नहीं है, you have to WhatsApp it to them. So
Bus.
like we also did make some changes. So if people were not well versed with email, we started using WhatsApp with them, but we do have an email for our records. So but explaining to them why a PO is important, why you need to print,
Yeah.
the whole system, actually explaining to them like has been another journey. Like it's like
Yeah.
what people see online is the
Yes.
happy, the rosy social media journey of it, but there is a lot of other side of things that people also don't see.
Usually there are like 3 rounds. First is the form, then you go for an audition, then there's a lot of back end work also, and
Okay.
there's a lot of ambiguity around it because it's a very long process.
Yeah.
Would want to move on that how Shark Tank happened, and like, how did it come across? So how did you eventually went on TV? How was it? How did the whole process go?